Welcome to part 2 of 3 in the Prophecies of Love's Way. Tornadoes and a Destiny in Texas. In part 1, I covered the experience in which I was consumed by holy energy while I was wide awake and given a vision. This was the first of many experiences in which I was shown events to unfold in the future. In this video, I'll share a vision which showed me a destiny in Texas, accompanied by tornadoes, 4 spirit entities, and a brown-haired woman who is apparently to be by my side. It was somewhere around 1996. I'd been put in the jail experience behind me and was growing, as all young, vibrant things do. My learning through dreams continued, as did my spiritual growth. It seemed that this had simply evolved, as did my intuition, like a natural thing we find when we relax enough to find it. A new type of vision had happened. It came as a dream in my sleep, and was absolutely different from other dream experiences, in that it was abrupt and bold in its remembrance. My consciousness was fully awake and attentive when it happened. There was also a knowing that this message was from the Creator, one which your spirit does not mistake for anything else. It was in this way that I would be given some foresight into events which were to happen in our future. Events which would affect not just myself and my family, but every form of life in our world.
But didn't you know how the love flow?
In this vision, I saw myself on a hilltop in Texas, in front of an old farmhouse on a dirt road. I saw my brothers and sisters there with their families standing in front of this house in the countryside. Around the house were tornadoes, bringing a great manner of destruction to all the things. Now, the irony here is that this old farmhouse I was seeing was actually an old farmhouse that I grew up in near Tioga, Texas. When I was very young, we survived a tornado in that house. It had taken our swing set, twisted it up like a lollipop, and drove it straight into the ground. We were all safe, though. It's funny the way life can seem to echo certain things. Now, we hadn't lived there for well over a decade at this point, and everyone was living in Illinois. Even still, I knew that the entire family would end up back in North Texas. I was given this knowing that we would all end up in North Texas at some point in the future. As the tornadoes continued to swirl about the countryside, I also knew that no harm would come to us. In this, I was given the knowing that we were to be kept safe in what would be a time of turmoil for many. For a moment, I just watched with my significant other by my side. I could tell that she was shorter than me and that she had brown hair, but that was about it. Little did I know, I already knew her. It's a good thing I didn't realize who it was, though, because I likely would have driven straight to her. Yes, it would have been amazing to spend my entire life with my love, but we each needed to go through what we did in order to become who we are. Next, I find myself on the road in front of this house. It's your typical country dirt road. In this region of North Texas, they're red. My significant other and I are standing in the middle of the road when a tornado comes straight towards us. I'm not worried at all. I've already been given the understanding that nothing is going to hurt me. My lady, on the other hand, expresses concern about the tornado. I told her it's okay. God says the tornadoes wouldn't hurt us. I wanted to further comfort her, so I lay down across her and covered her as the tornado passed by. After it passed, I helped her back up and said, "See, it's okay." It was then that I turned to observe these 4 tornadoes standing together like 4 roaring pillars. These 4 were the power behind all of the destruction that was occurring. Even though I was observing destruction, these tornadoes weren't necessarily bad or evil. They did adhere to the command not to harm us. All in all, it was quite the overwhelming visual. I'm not really what you would describe as a visually talented entity, so seeing something like that just leaves me in awe. Apart from the literal imagery, other information and understanding was given along with the vision. The next day, I called my mom and told her that we would all live in Texas. I knew that we had many years before this would come about, but I also knew the importance of telling Mom. I let her know that a time would come when we had to work together for things to be easier, that the world would become a more challenging place. Now for the mind-blowing part, the return of Amy. Remember my best friend in high school from part 1? A couple decades pass and we fast forward to the spring of 2018. I had spent most of my life building businesses and working for myself. At a young age, I learned to write software in a self-taught way. And as a passionate creator, software had always been a favorite tool. By this point in life, I had been directed to give up my own business and go find a job with an employer. Since heeding that direction, I've been working for the largest and oldest tech company on the planet. If you want to find your flow, listen to that inner guidance. This is all to say that I had grown a long ways and completed much life learning. I had gotten to travel the world in pursuit of mystical knowledge, almost always related to Kung Fu and internal alchemy. For me, that path seemed to be least full of man's crap. I learned to love being rained on every day in a rainforest. I learned to sit in the snow and melt it with a hot inner breath. I even learned to live at higher altitudes without needing any food at all, only water and being in a constant state of love. That's a Taoist practice known as Bigu. I could likely write several books on the different aspects of my experiences in life. I'm sure that many of you feel the same way, though. Now remember, even with all of this learning, I'm still an imperfect human learning here. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to be wrong at times. When we're okay with that, we can learn a lot faster. Now we find ourselves in the age of Facebook, and here comes an invite to a Facebook group reunion from the old high school I went to. And in time, there was a message from Amy. I accidentally found the message as it had almost gotten lost in one of those people you don't know folders. I was excited to see it, but at the same time, I was tempered in expectation. I figured that she would be well into her own experience in life and family at this point. As we reconnected and explored, it seems we were in similar life places and were both enjoying the reconnection. We started talking on the phone. Amy still had old pictures and even yearbooks. I had none of that. as I had lost most of these things to a fire at one point. I share with her all of my crazy stories of my life, including my visions. I was certainly eccentric and esoteric from her perspective. While I had been having this amazing divine experience, her experience had her avoiding these sorts of topics. There were people in her life claiming to be godly who had brought her and those around her much suffering. Even with this difference, though, we were still two peas in a pod, and the world's a little better when we're together. We poured over so many memories as the weeks went on, pictures and things to reminisce about. This continued until one day she threw me for a curveball. Now, at this point, I had already told her about the visions the Creator had given me. She knew I wasn't religious, but that I thought that God spoke to me and showed me the future at times. She certainly knew the details of the vision I had with 4 tornadoes. She tells me that she found an old journal with a dream that matches my vision. I'm skeptical but curious, so okay, hit me with it. So she proceeds to read. July 26, 1996. I dreamt I was walking down a path and I was alone. I felt towards destruction. It appeared as if tornadoes had destroyed where I was going. I was afraid to continue, but then I looked up and someone's walking towards me and tells me not to worry. The tornadoes will not hurt me. And then he covers me. Is this God sending someone to walk me through my pain? I immediately reacted in fear, thinking this had to be some made-up crap and I was being played. I was willing to believe that I had been given these visions, but I wasn't willing to believe what she was telling me. I'm pretty skeptical, though. So she shows me the pages, the journal, a whole period of her life wrapped in a pain I'm sure she didn't want to revisit. I was floored. This was not made up. And here I was. I finally knew who the brown-haired woman was in my vision. We got married, and then a year later, we got land together and founded Love's Way. I needed her, and she needed me. It's now been 3 years, and we're growing together, learning how to love each other and make our way through this world. Much of what had been foretold in the 1996 vision was coming to completion. My entire family lives here in North Texas at this point. Everyone who I saw in the vision. My significant other is right here beside me. And she had even documented a similar vision. It's as if destiny issued us passports and said, "Don't worry, you'll find each other in the terminal." What's more amazing is that we're standing here holding tickets to the most incredible time in human history. We get to see a rebirth that has been long awaited by far more than just us humans. So there's the love story. My mind is still blown. Every day I still wake up and bear witness to how amazing and divine our world is. So let's delve into some of the untold aspects of this vision and make some references to observations in the book of Revelation. Apart from knowing that I was to end up in Texas one day, I also knew that I was being shown a decline in the state of the world. The destruction I was seeing from the tornadoes were a reference to the amplitude of the destruction and not just a literal representation. The 4 tornadoes I was shown were 4 spirits or angels, if you like. It's their job to administer the destruction to come. Now, I've been shown much about this and even other aspects of what is to happen on earth. But for now, we'll stay focused on what was observed in this vision. This was the first time I had received a revelation about destruction in our future. I knew that this was a key component, and my entire family can tell you that since 1996, I've had something to say about what the future will be like and why it's important that we live and work together now. It's funny the range of responses I've gotten. I remember once hearing, "Brian's part Cherokee, these are probably just his tribal instincts wanting us to live and work together." So let's tie this into the book of Revelation. Note that in part 3, I'm going to tie yet another vision into both the book of Revelation as well as a prophecy from the Hopi tribe. 2 things that I would like to point out here. In this vision of the 4 tornadoes, we were marked to be kept safe. We knew it, and the tornadoes knew it. The second point is that all of the destruction was administered by 4 entities which stayed in one place, but had the power to command everything else. These were the 4 tornadoes which stood together. Now I will quote chapter 7 from the book of Revelation. "After this, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back its 4 winds, so that no wind would blow on the land, or the sea, or on any tree. I saw another angel ascending from the east with the seal of the living God, and he called out in a loud voice to the 4 angels who have been given power to harm the land and the sea. 'Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the foreheads of the servants of our God.'" Chapter 7 goes on to say more about this. And in chapter 8, we see an auspicious start. Quoting from the first verse, "When the Lamb opened the 7th seal, there was a silence in heaven for about half an hour." There's a silence because of what is about to happen on earth. Our choices have brought so much harm to our planet that we ourselves have made it uninhabitable for many species already. Even knowing this, we still choose to take advantage over others versus growing in our hearts. How long will we stuff our mouths with the broken dreams and tears of others before we realize this is not where joy comes from? A great change is upon us. Chapter 8 continues with the sounding of 7 trumpets, each bringing their own woe. Now, I'm not here to interpret the book of Revelation. I'm just pointing out some similarities I've come across. I'm here to share what I was shown, which feels to me much more joyful and freeing, even though some of it has destruction happening. I guess when you see society get to a point where there's so much pain and lack of emotional growth, you welcome a greater teacher. Humanity is not the only creation. We were not the first. This is not to say that we're not special in our own way. We've been given the opportunity to grow for many thousands of years, longer than anyone on this planet knows, because our memory and consciousness of time is very limited. We exist apart from the light of love, which was spoken to our world in the beginning. It is up to each of us to find our way back to this light and choose whom we will serve. Many of us ask why God would allow so many bad things to happen in our world, to happen to us. Have you not yet realized that we do not grow apart from our own suffering? Have you not accepted even the horrible things that you've done to those you were supposed to love? We are intended to become graceful, merciful, empowered through love. Many of you think that power is having authority over others, but true power is in our ability to be vulnerable, to be the softness that can break the chains which swords cannot. Those chains which bind what should be sacred, your heart. Yes, it's true that we are not of this world. We are not the greed we see. We are not the vanity that so many people would sell you only to prop up your own narcissism. This world is ours to hold and care for, though. It's up to you and me to make this the world it's intended to be. It's up to you and me to learn and grow so that our species can become worthy of inhabiting and caring for our Mother Earth. Even still, we are not alone in this. We've never been alone. Great Father is here to help us. Our brothers and sisters from across the stars are here to help us. But we must choose what we will serve. This world does not belong to those who will fill their mouths and hearts with their own vanity. In time, after much suffering, our world will abide the law of love and will emanate love itself. In time, there will be no more suffering, and our world will yield that beautiful fruit which time itself has awaited. I'll talk more about this in part 3. You see, later in life, I was to have a vision where I would witness the world changing in an instant. I would experience the very light of love manifest here on earth. And afterwards, I was quite depressed to be apart from it. That's all in part 3 of 3, A New Earth. Thank you for listening. I love you. Thank you for loving me.
Attune your hearts and minds to the quality of appreciation. That is love. For many ages now, we have experienced an existence apart from the light of love that was given to all. And in this experience, we are given access to all the creative knowledge and given the choice of who we will serve, to serve ourselves or to serve all through the law of love. This time is coming to an end.